Hello, in this tutorial we're going to cover a question that came across from Darian, how to add custom chat options. Okay, first of all, I guess I'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about here, how the chat options look by default. This is when you use the RPG turn-based template. Anyways, I'm going to hit the test button, have it build out here real quick. Alright, escape key to skip, I believe. Oop, I'm going to have it selected, there we go. Alright. And I already added the actor onto the board there. But now when you go up to them, you get options, befriend and leave. Leave, of course, is backs out. And befriend, you can, of course, befriend them to follow. Okay, go ahead and close that out. Okay, first of all, let's go ahead and add some more chat options to him. To do this, go to, once you have them selected, go to the collections and where the attributes is, hit that little box there. And you'll see it comes up with a list of their attributes that they have with it. As you see, the befriend attribute, it has the true value right there, which basically means can they be friend or not. And then the message that he's going to say to you. So in this case, he has that message right there, which is great and all, but we want to add more options for the actors to be able to have. So in this case, from the question that came across from Darian, one of his options was fishing. So let's go ahead and add that. When you add this, as you see, it is not assigned. What we need to do is add database values that are going to be global across for the player and all the actors. So go ahead and hit OK. Go ahead and leave that not assigned. It doesn't matter. Hit OK, and then come up and then go to settings and then to the project settings. If you have the project settings open, go over to the database tab. And I have been considering adding a button up on the main toolbar to go into the database. A little tip I got from Darian. I'm definitely considering that. There's quite a few clicks to get into there. But anyways, let's go into the attributes collection here and hit that little box again. Here you see a list of basic, oh, I'm going to go ahead and cancel that out. I wasn't supposed to do that. Go ahead and hit the little box, and here you see a little list of the basic objects that the player has in it. These are basically just designating what names they are. They can be, of course, numbers, booleans, sorry, true or false is what booleans are, or strings, or a combination of things. In the case of befriend, it is separated with the comma, which I'll show you in a second how that works. Anyways, go ahead and hit add, and where it hits, click on the not set and type in fishing. And then go ahead and hit OK. And hit OK again on the next window. Now go ahead and go back into the attributes for the actor over here. And you notice down there we now have the value for fishing. Now we can go ahead and mock the same makeup that's in this. Not exactly sure how it would work with fishing, but let's say the first value was going to be is it possible to fish here? And the next one, forgive me, I haven't had very much sleep lately. Let's put got I fish? Plain and simple. Oh, exclamation mark. Okay. Okay, now that we have that, that is not going to work on its own. This whole system is, of course, everything is very dynamic. The file that is for those options is actually available, and I'm going to show you that real quick. I don't really expect anybody to be able to modify this file, but it is possible. You can modify all the logic in it and change pretty much 100% how anything's going to react. But everything is driven by this options.visual Lua file here. This basically interprets how things are going to come across into this. Right now, it's looking basically for a function. So in the case of befriend, it's looking for a befriend function. Let's say, for instance, we go ahead and try that fishing one real quick. Let's go back into the world map, and I'll show you what I mean by basically the string, the way that method calculates it is going to turn into the function name. But let's go back into the actor. Of course, he's on layer 4. Go ahead and select him. Then we can actually use that to go into the attributes. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and add that fishing value in there. Let's go ahead and put in the true, and I feel like I'm repeating myself here. Got a fish. And hit OK. I'm just going to check real quick to make sure that actually did save on there. Okay, and go ahead and hit the OK button. And I'll go ahead and test this out and show you what I mean by that function there. Oh, I actually forgot to add it to the talk options. This attribute here actually controls what options that this player is going to have at this particular moment. The way the script works. So let's go ahead and type in the exact wording for that. Fishing, and then have each one separated by a comma. Now we go back in and test it, and that option will show. Okay, and there now you can see it does have the fishing option. However, it is going to throw a script error when you hit this, because that option visual Lua file basically converts each one of these names into a function. It could be changed to work any other way. Go ahead and hit fishing, and you can see that error I'm attempting to. It says basically attempt to call a global fishing a nil value. Down here you see fishing with the 2 brackets, which that's basically showing me that it is a function. And when it says nil, it basically translates into the program. Doesn't think it exists. It can't find the definition anywhere. A lot of programming languages actually use the term null, but Lua went with the term nil on this. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how that works and how that wraps up into it. Go ahead and close out that window. And if you go into scripting, that is actually housed at the moment in the in-game.visual-lua file, which is the main entry file for this particular map. Go ahead and click onto that, and you can see you're in the design mode right now. Go ahead and go into the backcoding into it. Of course, for visual options, hit the control and hit the mouse wheel when you have everything into focus. And you can zoom up on it. If you scroll through the list, each one of these you can see that they are functions, and that's what I was talking about. The function is called. In here you'll find befriend, basically is what we're looking for. So when you click on befriend, it actually goes into all of this. Okay, and now we're in this befriend option, function, sorry. This is what goes on. It's very basic. And the first one is taking that string that we put into it, where we have the true and then comma, and then basically what he says after it's befriend. Right there, this is getting a string.split, and then it's asking the actor get attributes, the actor's ID, what the attribute name is. But anyways, it ends up splitting these apart at the comma. Getting a little bit more advanced, this is going a little bit more into it. It's basically taking option 1 and converting it into a Boolean, a true-false situation, and is it allowed at this state. The next one is option 2 is basically the message that is said to it. So you have in this case saying if option 2 doesn't equal nil. That's what that little tilde means on there, the key next to 1. Doesn't equal nil. Basically, if there is a value there, then go ahead and add it to the message line. Which in the same thing where you see message linked here, this is all built into the game engine. I mean, not hard coded, but able to change basically. Uh, you can go into the message file here and basically edit anything from top to bottom on that. And of course, that's taken option too, which was on the other side of the comma. And then we get into the little bit of the logic. If allowed basically equals true, then it adds the follower by the ID, an actor ID. And if you go through the script, you'll actually find that function there and see how everything in that works. Everything is totally open. The next line is basically unpausing the engine. The beginning of the text field actually has a pause command. If you go into that option file, it pauses everything out, so you're not necessarily moving around when you're talking to these guys. That's basically how the befriend works. Real quick, I'll show you a quick hack on how to make that other function work. Just basically quick copy, Control C in the case I just did there, and then Control V. Now take that befriend and rename it into capitalization does matter, phishing. And now when you call that method, here we're going to have to go phishing, or it's going to actually pull the befriend attribute. Now this is going to basically turn the phishing attribute into the befriend attribute, which is not necessarily what we want to do, but it's real quick. If you take out if allowed this line right here, which there's two I guess you call them minus signs, actually will comment out the line, so it's actually not active in the code. It will turn green here in a second. So that line is no longer activated. In the case of phishing, let's see, it's going to split it apart still. The first one's going to be allowed, so that's still applicable. Okay, so basically here I would start doing a slight modification here. We're actually going to use a double if block. We're going to put two if blocks into one on this case. So in this case, we're going to go allowed. I like to say exactly equals. Basically put two equal signs in that case, and then in this case equals true. And then use the word and that's basically how you could combine two if statements into one. So basically in this case, if it is allowed for you to phish, and the message does exist, there is something after the comma, show the line that the fish is caught. You could additionally come in here, instead of just giving a message, and you can start being able to add more logic. I'm going to comment this out real quick because it's not an actual add, something functional I'm going to code at the moment, but you would have a method here called probably something like add fish. And then in that you would add the logic to where it would give you the item, or do just about whatever you wanted it to do at that point. Okay, so it's not going to be friended or anything, so it should basically have the message of phishing. Okay, and I'll go into it, and we're going to go up and chat to him again. Alright, and just before we have the phishing option here, we go ahead and click on the phishing option. We got a fish. We caught a fish. I'm sorry, I haven't had much sleep tonight. My family's been over, and probably gonna edit this out later. So, anyways, and that is basically how you change the chat options on that. So we can catch another fish there. Anyways, thank you very much. I think I'm gonna go to bed now. Have a good night. Hello and welcome back. This is part 2 of Add More Chat Options to RPG Turn-Based Project Template. In the last tutorial, we basically covered how to do that, add more options. We went in and added a fishing option into the actor here and showed how to create the method for it so it doesn't basically throw an error when you have the new method in there. In this tutorial, I want to go in more depth for basically each time you would click on the fishing option for them to go deeper and deeper into a chain, and then at the last thing basically just continuously repeat that. And we need to go into the in-game Visual Lua file that we built that method into in the last tutorial. Go ahead and click on that and switch over to the code side. Okay, scroll down and find that method. Okay, and there's our fishing method we programmed in the last one. Okay, let's go ahead and clean this method up a little bit. I was a little tired when I programmed this. Let's go ahead and take the add fish out because he isn't actually fishing with us. It's a conversation base. And go ahead and remove that add follower player command that was in there. Additionally to this, I really don't see the need for the allowed feature on this specific function. So in this case, I'm gonna show you how dynamic this can be by actually removing this at this time. So go ahead and chop out that allowed and remove the first half of that if block, including the and. Make sure there's a space in there. And okay, since we're gonna go ahead and remove that, we're going to want to go ahead and change the array number on here. Lua itself works off a non-zero base. It always starts at 1. This is unlike a lot of other programming languages that normally start at 0 and then go up. So for the first one, since the true-false is going to be out of there, let's go ahead and switch that to 1 here. Alright, go back up to the project tree view here and go back to the world map and definitely save what we just did there. Okay, now go back and select that actor, go into the attributes collection editor, and let's go back down to that fishing option there and go ahead and type in that sequence again that we did before, this time without the boolean in the beginning. Okay, so now that I got that retyped in there to fix that little bug there. Okay, relatively the same thing as I had in there before. So go ahead and hit OK on that. Now basically I go up to test and I'll show you that the bool is removed at this point. However, it isn't going to step through the array yet. See, perfectly functional without it. Okay, go ahead and close that back out and go back down to the in-game script file where we were programming that function. Okay, the first thing we're going to want to do is find out the total length of this thing. For that, just go ahead and type in local so it stays in the scope of this function, and let's just call it count in this case, equals, and for this command it is table get in, and that is a Lua function. And for this, you're going to want to find out the length of options. Okay, go ahead over to the next line, hit enter. And just to line everything up right, hit the tab key. It just helps keep everything real organized. The computer program itself, it could be all compressed for all it cares, but this makes it definitely a lot more human. Next, we need to know what step we're on. However, you got to be real careful with computers not to call something that doesn't exist. For in this first case, we're going to check something and see if it exists as we're literally making it up. Blue's pretty forgiving in this way. Go ahead and hit if, and we need to give this a name. And I guess I'm going to go with fish chat at for the command name. No, we can't just do a simple variable for this that's declared up here that counts through it, because this could be for multiple actors. So we need to just basically build into the array, start storing the value of the actor into it, and then check to see what step they're at that point. For this, like I said, Lewis forgiving, we're literally making it up as we're going here. Let's go ahead and copy the actor's ID there and put it in brackets so it tries to grab it out of the array there, and ask it if it equals nil. Basically, if it equals nil, then we need to set this variable. In this case, it hasn't been set, so of course this variable needs to be set to 1 on that. Oh, probably should put that on its own line here. I'm going to start a little if block. Let's go ahead and tab that over to the right space there, and then go to the next line and type in else, and then go to the next line, tab back over. Now in this case, we're going to want to actually start increasing it, because it does exist. That means it has already been to the first position. So for that, let's go ahead and put that array in equals that array plus 1. Hit enter, and we're going to end this block here. Okay, I still have that in copy paste. This is the point that we need to know where it's at in the chat options. So instead of having a number here, we're going to pull that value that's stored in that array out and put it to basically pull it out of an array. So go ahead and replace the 1 with that fish chat at in brackets actor ID. Now if I did everything right, this should fire right up. Let's go ahead and hit the test button. And let's see if it works. Alright, do the first one. Alright, basically, I'm going to show you how real quick, because there is an error in this. It says there's a script error at line 75 is what that first part translates into. It attempted to call a global fish at chat nil value, and basically it's telling you that it's in the fishing function. That's the last command that the engine received where it failed out. So we're going to go ahead and fix that mistake. I believe it's because I didn't declare the base array on it, which I think should be pretty easy to patch up. Let's go ahead and hit OK and then close out of that. Alright, so basically we need to declare this as a table, I believe is what its dysfunction here is in this case. So copy that fish chat at, and I tend to like to put everything in kind of some kind of an organization. You could, quite frankly, just put this right here and declare it, but I usually prefer to put the attributes at the top, more of a standard type practice. So here in the attributes, go ahead and put a new line in there, put that command in, and put that it equals that right there. I'm not actually sure what those brackets are. Please somebody correct me in the YouTube comments. Probably should look that up. Anyways, it's those two right there in front of your face. Okay, so that hopefully should fix our problems there. So go ahead and hit the test button and let's see if we got that problem out of the way. Okay, cross your fingers. Okay, so he has the first one. You can fish out a river. Let's back away and go back up to him and go fishing again. You need a fishing pole to fish. Okay, and go to the third one and tell him fishing. I don't want to talk about fishing anymore. Let's go back to him and talk again, and I can already tell you that this is going to crash out. I intentionally left the one line out to kind of show you what happens if you try to dive into something further. It's basically at this point, it's defaulting off. It's not going to say anymore. The text is just the text that was left up there in the first place. So to fix this, it's pretty easy. We already started the thing for that. Let's go back down to the method here. And we need to check for the case to see basically if it's already at the last position. For this, we're going to do basically if block, which powers pretty much everything. Okay, let's go ahead and go if the fish chat at and actors ID array. Actually, let's put doesn't equal, that's what the tilia means. The count. So this is going to go through, and here it's going to count up to put it up to position 3. But if it gets here, only case that it's going to go into is if it doesn't equal the count. So as soon as it hits 3, it's not going to be able to access this portion anymore to increase. Hence, it's going to keep repeating the same statement over and over. But then, let's go ahead and tab that next line over, and then in the block, of course. Now that should stop the chat from doing that. We also come up with other variations. There's many ways you can go on this. We could have else, and then we could have the chat literally loop back at this point to the first position, having it basically kind of repeat through a chain of events. We could also have it when it's maxed out, go into this attribute editor, and basically you can go into the chat options using the set attribute method. And you can basically change those chat options by accessing that attribute. Any of these commands, I never expect anybody to remember every command in the world. I mean, I just had to look up the table get in because I couldn't remember it. Because whoever basically named that function in Lua wasn't really thinking too well about naming things. But at any point, you can come in here, and if you hit the alternative right click, you can open this menu here. And then you have the quick commands here. This is basically, it's not every command in the engine. I'm constantly adding more and more commands to this to be able to have people access. But if you come out into the 2D area here, you'll see that there's the actors. Up at the top, you can see where we're doing the string.split on the actors.get attribute. Basically, you're going to want the opposite attribute to that, the set. So you could come in here and ask it to tell it to set attribute. You would use that actor's ID much like it is up above, tell it the name, and then the next parameter on it, the third parameter, would be what you want that to set as. I'm going to show you a quick example of how this works, and we'll just comment it out because right at the moment I'm not going to go that way. We'll just do the loop. But for example reasons, I'll go ahead and show you that. Let's go ahead and replace this. This actor's ID is actually fed from the engine, so this is something, it's a little powerful thing for any time you just had a collision with it and it hits a method, it's so we know what actor it went into. Of course, we're going to want the fishing name here, just like up on the get function for the attribute. So type in fishing, and case does matter, of course. And this shouldn't have to be. Oh, wait, we don't want to go into it. I actually want the. I believe it's like that, chat options, and then you go ahead and set them at that point, just like you would set through the attribute collection editor, what attributes it has. So just the same, and then we could remove the fishing option from there. I'm going to go ahead and comment that out, and we're just going to go with where it loops back to the beginning one. So we can go ahead and test this out. So first time, second time, third time. So now if we go to it and do it again, that new method that we just coded is going to loop it back to the first one. And so on. That covers how to do that. One more additional thing is you could also have this chat box clear out each time instead of starting a new line on it. It could actually clear away. So for that, let's go ahead and look at the message class and see if we can resolve that. Another quick little hint here. It's a little feature. It's a little bit stubborn, but it definitely does help. There we go. I actually had to put the dot in there twice. That's what I was saying. It's a little bit stubborn, but now at this point you can see all the functions that that class has built into it without actually having to go open up the file. So we could actually clear this out, use a message.clear function on it, and reset it. I'm going to actually go and take a peek at that real quick to see how that works. It's been a while since I've been in that file. Okay, so it's a real basic function. So let's go ahead and go back to endgame and let's go ahead and add that to it to show you how the clear works. So we could actually at any point just clear this out. Let's go. Oh no, we don't want to do it at the end because then it would type the message and then remove it, and you would never see it. Okay, so let's go message.clear, and that will clear out the box each time. Let's go ahead and test that out. And there you go. Now it's refreshing the chat box each time if you don't want it to have a continuous conversation type thing going there. Now that's a little odd. Okay, I had a pause there to figure out how basically that was blanking out. It was just a minor little glitch in the message.visuallua file. This will be updated in the next release of this template. but for now, it's a pretty easy fix. Go ahead and go into the code behind. And on that clear function, I guess what its dysfunction was in this case, it wasn't resetting the lines for the class. So as it cleared it out, the program thought it was still at a high line count. So it was basically showing you a blank area due to kind of auto scroll nature that is programmed into here on the add line feature. Like I said, all this can be changed, but to fix this, right after go ahead and put in class.line equals 0, and that'll reset the lines back to 0, and then everything will function right. I'll go ahead and test that out here. Alright, so you got the first one, and then the second one, and then the third one, and then back to the first, and now everything's working on that. Alright, I know I said I was going to do the zoom feature on the chat, but given the length of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and break that into the third section of it, so this could possibly be quite a bit more parts than I first anticipated. But I thank you for viewing. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment on anything, and post any questions that you have to me. This is part 3 of add more chat options to a RPG turn-based project template. In this tutorial we're going to cover how to change the zoom effect when you go to talk to the actor. First of all, I'd like to show you why that event takes place when you have the collision with the actor and how to set up or be able to change that. So go ahead and select the actor, scroll down to the collections, and go into the animations collection here. The animation collection holds all the animations for each direction the player can move, including all of its collision for each of the frames for the directions it can move. In addition to that, also axis, which isn't necessarily in this game, but I have used in a Hunger Man game I've created. First of all, go over here to members, go over to the standing one, because this event actually happens when the actor's standing and the player comes up to them. So we're going to want the standing member, and then come over to the collision and go into the collection for that. This basically dictates on which frame each animation is going to take place on. Of course, for the standing one on this actor, he's only a 1 frame base, so you're only going to have the 1 frame on it, no others. But in here you're able to set up exactly where on the player the collision takes place and what event would be fired if you want an event to be fired on that aspect to go into. In this case it goes into the talk attribute. And that's where it loops back into the scripting file that is linked to the map. So go ahead and cancel out of this. And cancel again. What we're going to want to do is this first thing that happens when it goes into the chat for this effect, I'm going to have it zoom up into a 2x, so we're going to need to go into that script file. Do that, go over to the tree view, of course, like in the previous tutorials, and open the endgame script. Go to the code side. And scroll down to find that talk method. And of course this is the method that is initiated by that event, which could be renamed by you if you needed to anything. Okay, this is just going to be a 1-line modification on this end, so go ahead and come in here and let's go ahead and use the camera.zoom function, and let's go ahead and tell it to go to 2.0. And that'll zoom us into 2.0 there. The other thing we're going to need to do is take it back out of zoom on basically when it's going to exit out of these conversations. So for instance, in the befriend, we're going to want to come over here before the unpause function and go ahead and put this back to normal zoom. So you can just type in 1 for that. Also with the fishing method we added in there, let's go ahead and add it above there. Oh, that was friend. Okay, and then additionally, we also, of course, want this on the leave function here. And I believe that should be all the events that are going to exit out of the chat. Let's go ahead and switch to the design mode to get a faster build result and hit the test button. And let's test to see if they've got everything working out fine here. Okay, now we are zoomed up on him. So let's go ahead and try the fishing one. And let's say the leave, and of course, the befriend. And that concludes this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show how to set up additional chat options for when you click on a chat option to be able to go to the next tree in it to have basically more chat options. And I can also foresee a tutorial being made after that to go into deeper, be able to show how to set up parameters for different decisions that may need to be taken place throughout a conversation, or say if there's a prerequisite event where they have to get a certain item before the tree would start. That could also be done through the scripting very easily. Anyways, thank you. Remember to subscribe, share, like, and comment if you have any questions. This is part 4 of Add More Chat Options to a RPG turn-based project template. In this tutorial, we're going to cover how to, first of all, we're going to tidy up the chat options so they're a little bit more fluid through the continuous conversation, and then that's also going to tie into being able to have multiple depths of conversation for it to go into the next tree, which is going to also tie into being able to have case situations with them. Okay, first of all, let's go ahead and fix the chat system so it has more of a fluid chat system. What I mean by that is so we don't have to back away from the actor and go back to it to continue the conversation on or to get the next branch of it. So go into the end game script. Go to the code side and go down and look for the fishing method. Okay, there she is. I also changed this line from the last video. I had it as chat options. It's, of course, the correct naming for that is talk options. First of all, go down to the bottom of that function, and we're no longer going to need to change the zoom or pause the engine. So go ahead and remove those two lines. Now we're going to want to change just slightly a little bit how we did this here. For simplistic reasons, I'm going to go ahead and copy that first line there using Control C. And at the bottom of this file, go ahead and paste that back in. I just did that to kind of sum things up a little bit quicker. And also take away the tilde and make it if it is equal to the count. And here is where we're going to go ahead and take that commented line and put it in there. Basically what this is going to do is reset the actor's chat options. In this case, we have the misspelled befriend, which needs fixed eventually, and then the leave option. So basically, when it hits the final count, gives the final message, he says he doesn't want to talk about fishing anymore. It's going to go ahead and remove that option from him. Additionally to that, we need to get the whole system to refresh the menu. Real quick way to do that is just call back up the talk function, and it's going to pull up the new menu from that. So that's already easy and summed up. And go ahead and end this block off. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove this section here, which was returning it back to the start. I don't really want the looping one. I think in most cases it'd be better off to just remove the conversation piece at that time. But of course, preference, whatever you desire for your game to go, whatever direction. Actually, to co-invert the clear option, go ahead and add talk down there, and that should fix it up so it doesn't clear it out each time, and it should exist always. And of course, if it hits in this case, it's going to go ahead and remove before it refreshes. And we'll go up and approach the player, or sorry, actor. Alright, and now if we talk about fishing to him, you can see now that it's not losing the zoom out at this point, staying zoomed in, and we no longer have to back away and back in and out. So we can now go to the fishing again. He's going to talk, okay, you need a fishing pole, the second command, and then the third one. He doesn't want to talk about fishing anymore. Now you notice at this point, that option has been totally removed from here. So that's basically how you would do that, but this is also getting into one of the ways that you can go about adding a deeper conversation tree into this. Oh, and of course you have the leave now. When you hit leave, it's going to, at that point, take you back to the normal Zoom.